Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 3 finale of The Wheel of Time. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's start off with Nynaeve and them. Obviously, they're chasing after Leandrin because, obviously, she's got both bracelets. Now all she needs is the collar because Maki then presents it to her and is like, oh, this merchant was selling it and I paid for it with my own money. And I even love Leandra being like, what's your name again? She's like, well, I've never asked your name. And Maki then's like, oh, you've always been too busy to answer that question, mistress. And where I'm like, yeah, funny how you managed to dodge that question again. Because that's why I'm like, she just walking about, no one questions that. I don't know if that's just like, it seems like Maki then does that better than anyone else. But I mean, to be fair, like, Lanfear had all that time is Celine. So it's like, it's not out of the question, but it's just interesting. That she just, I don't know if that's like her power or because she is seen as like even the weakest amongst the Forsaken, that it feels like she can just like put up, if you go by Doctor Who terms, like she puts up a perception filter where like you notice her, but you don't like notice her. But to be fair, as we can see, she can get inside your head. So it's almost like she can probably force people to not notice her at all. So either way, she hands over the bracelet. Now it's all about, hey, we got to go get the collar. And the other two subordinates, the only ones that are left, are like, oh, maybe you'll kill us not like Naomi. It's like, well, Naomi challenged her, so I had to put her down. It's like, well, what about our other sisters? Like, oh, well, Maki didn't already like took care of that like 2 episodes ago, so yeah, you gotta worry about that. They don't even realize that she's been murked. So it's just three of them left, and they go to and kill everyone in the place they need to go to find a collar. Nynaeve and the others follow in pursuit. And the team split up. It's Tom and Elaine. Then it's Nynaeve on her own. And then it's Min and Matt. But Nynaeve was like, whoever gets to the collar first, we need to make sure that whoever gets it runs. Because she pieces it together. The woman that visited us, why we can't really remember anything, how we lost the bracelet, only person that could have done that was a Forsaken. So it's like, right, last thing we need is that to fall into anyone's hands. Leandrin's nor a Forsaken, because they'll be able to basically control Rand. And it's like, well, we can't let that happen. So either way, let's kind of break down the stories bit by bit, because we have Tom and Elaine kind of talking about the past. He talks about her being the type of person that always like to pull stuff apart just so she can understand it. But then they end up running into one of Leandra's people, and she's got like this staff thing that kind of acts as kind of like you put power through it, and it's like, well, what does it really fully do? And they're kind of running, and we find out that Gabriel isn't. So, because Tom is like, I don't know that dude. He's like, I've always made sure to keep an eye on your mom's court, even when I left. Because he's like, I left when you were about 5. But he's like, I don't know who this dude is. He doesn't exist. And he's like, but she's like, no. I have memories of this guy. It's like the only person that could do that is a Forsaken. And I felt so stupid in that moment. I was like, why didn't I never realize that Gabriel and Robin are the same person? I don't know why that. To be fair, it's like you saw them separately. So I don't know why it just. Other people were like, oh my God, the moment Robin popped up, because you meet Robin after you've already met Gabriel, but it never clicked in my head. Because I don't think, because we haven't seen Gabriel since episode 2, if I'm not mistaken. And then like the only time we saw Robin was when it was like Lanfear, Samuel, and him all got together about what they were going to do about the Rand situation, but also like Makiden. So either way, I felt so stupid not piecing that together before. Now I was like, oh God, that was like, oh, that sucks. Once again, they just like, they lay in wait. Here he is right next to a queen, none the wiser, which it's so ironic with everything Aleda is up to, that the kingdom you're supposed to advise and stuff like that. You're here on your queen's orders, but you're also here because you're power tripping and you want the power because you feel like the Amelin seat's rightfully yours. We kind of get a little insight into that. I am still curious, why did things go her way? Because she went, I guess that kind of ties into, because I was like, when Matt meets that dude later on, that creature isn't like Ifen or Alphen, whatever his name was, and yeah, she went to make a wish to basically like assure that the thing was going to go her way, and the white Aes Sedai was like, you never know like what the price is going to pay, and she ended up losing. I don't know whether like that situation, because she only got 4 votes. She got all the blues and only 1 brown, that being Varen. But then like the white Aes Sedai that was supposed to take Eleda's side took Swan's, and so it ended up being a situation of, well, now the others started coming. I guess it's like when the most logical of the Aes Sedai is kind of like, I'm choosing Swan. I guess the others are like, well, I guess that's enough for me to side with you, and it gave her the 11 votes that she needed to kind of turn the tides from 4 to 11, just like that. All it took was that one white Aes Sedai to like turn against Eleda. But either way. Like I said, I'll circle back to that because the whole like be careful what you wish for type of thing. But because obviously it's going to tie into Matt's story. But either way, my point is like while Eleda's doing all that, not realizing the country that she and kingdom she and queenship that she's supposed to be protecting and advising to is in danger, and she'll be none the wiser while she's over here playing Emeline. So I just think that's interesting and ironic that you're so focused. Once again, she was kind of given orders to be here, but she was also doing it her own volition of, I want to take this opportunity to gain control of the Emeline because it was always meant to be mine. It should have been mine, and Suan is not deserving of it, especially with all your secrets and everything you're up to. But either way, putting the tower stuff aside for a second. But yeah, like Tom was like, Elaine, go, I'll stay behind. And she's like, why? Who are you really? I was like, in that moment that's happening, I'm like, he's got to be her dad, right? He's like, the way he takes such interest and takes such care into her, and the way he's looking, I was like, he has to be like her biological father. But yeah, he was going to deal with like the Aes Sedai on his own, except Elaine came back, took the staff, and like vaporized that. Like, I mean, it wasn't even just like a vaporization. Like, it looked like her entire existence came undone. And then when it did what it did, like the damage she had done to the ceiling first had also come undone. It almost like I said, like anything she did in that moment seemed to have become undone, because like this particles that kind of represented her went back to her spot when she blasted the ceiling, and then it vanished. I was like, what did that do? Like I said, it seemed like that just ripped her apart. Like I said, just destroyed her existence. I don't know. Maybe we'll get clarity on that potentially in the future. I don't know. But that's how I read that, considering like I said, the damage to the ceiling got undone. On the other side, we have Min and Matt, and they're looking, because it turns out the choker isn't going to look like a regular necklace or choker. It's going to look like a small ring, and then it's only when it's put on someone, specifically I guess a man, that it like turns into the collar version from the picture. But Matt ends up stepping through like a teleporter, and it presents him in front of this creature, which is basically asking him a whole bunch of questions. And basically it's kind of a genie where it's like, I will give you 3 wishes, but you don't know what's going on. And so Matt's just talking, and it goes, done. Especially he's like, wait, it's like, oh, those voices in your head. He's like, you can get rid of those voices, done. It's like, well, now you got 1 left. And his last one was like, I'm tired of being dicked around by like basically any magical thing or whatever. And it's like, done. Well, no, because he wanted a way out. The first thing was about not being dicked around by magical things. Then the second one was getting rid of the voices and memories in his head. And then the third was finding a way out. And it's like, yeah, but you don't even recognize, you didn't set any terms or guidelines. So I get to decide what the price is going to be. And when he gets pushed out, like he's hanging from the rope, like Min's vision. So you're like, interesting. It's so that, once again, I don't know if that's the thing that Eleda went to beforehand to like, God, it might not have been that. It might, but like when it said its name, I was like, that sounds familiar. I was like, did we hear that earlier in the episode? So I don't remember if that's the thing, because it's a similar portal or whatever. So that's why I'm like, I think Eleda like went through that to see that thing just to kind of have, but it's like, once again, it's a be careful what you wish for. It's a monkey paw situation. Luckily, Min was able to save Matt. Obviously, cares very, I mean, for one, it's like the visions kind of drive you up the wall, but it's like you do like Matt, so you want to, it's like, yeah, he's once again, whether it's romantic feelings that'll eventually become, or whether it's just a situation of, nah, like you're just a good buddy of mine and I want to stick it out with you because they kind of get along pretty damn well. But the problem is Matt's like, I don't remember how we got here. He's like, there are gaps in his memories. And I'm assuming like, yes, all the voices are gone, but I guess when the voices were taken from him, certain memories of his own were like, I guess maybe they're so in, instead of it being a very scalpel precision thing of, oh, let me cut away these memories and voices that aren't yours. But the problem is they're so entangled with all the others that it's like you can't undo that easily. So when it like took those memories, it yanked part of Matt with it, or maybe part of Matt's memories were the price. Maybe it also has something to do. I also wonder, did it have anything to do with like the whole like, oh, tired of being dicked around by like the supernatural, like the magical forces. He even was bringing up the one power because him and Min were saying the whole thing about like, oh yeah, like what if you could get rid of the one power, all magic? It'd be all the voices in his head that he's dealing with, and for her it'd be the whole situation of the visions. And I'm wondering if something came about that with that wish. Maybe, maybe not. I'm also curious to see what that means for him with the horn, because let's not forget that's also back at the White Tower. So I'm curious, like, Matt would still need to apparently die, and then someone had to blow it after him to, so no, someone blowing it now won't mean anything because it's still under Matt's, like, control. So, but I was wondering if any of those wishes tampered with that. So someone who does blow it now technically could blow it and kind of get the same result. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to find out, like, what the hell the aftermath of that is. But then we have Nynaeve finding the avoiding Leandrin and finding the what's its face bracelet. I'm not a choker. And as she was, because she didn't leave immediately, she waited for the others, and that gave Leandrin her chance. For her, it's like, I wish, like, oh, don't look at me with pity, Nynaeve, just because you know my story. But Nynaeve is trying to reach out to her because Nynaeve did connect with Leandrin back in season 1, and obviously even a little in season 2. Like, there was a connection there, and now you also feel sorry because you know what put her down the path that she did to make her dark oaths and, become a dark friend, to be a part of the Black Aja. And so for Leandrin, it's like, no, I wish that monster back in the day, like the man she was married to, had killed her child, because it's like he was always a weakness of mine. But it's like, no, he wasn't. You obviously cared about him, because it's like, Leandrin, there's still a heart there, even with all that you've done. But it's like, no, I decided this is who I want to be, and I don't want to change. Like, you're not going to change me. Like, I'm comfortable being who I am. And proceeds to try and wrap Nynaeve in a chain and drown her. But the thing that pushed her wasn't thinking about her parents or the sadness she went through. The specific thing that triggered her was the whole thing about her daughter that she experienced through those gates, and losing that child, like, especially like when you went on the other side of the gate trying to bring her with you and she disappears, and it awakens Nynaeve's powers. Now, whether she has full control now, who knows? It is kind of interesting. The whole point was, she's the person that tries to control the tides and stuff like that, instead of letting things kind of wash over her and just kind of let them do her, like, kind of going with the flow a little bit. She kind of let go in that moment, but I don't know, which is also interesting considering she does end up kind of controlling the water, because she ends up splitting it very Moses style. So I don't know if that's permanently unlocked for her, or whether she's going to have to try a little more going forward. So, but yeah, because that's where we kind of end things off with the whole thing, because there's still the Leandrin of it all, because she meets up with Makiden, and it's like, oh, you know who I am? It's like, well, I had to do research because I want to become one of the Forsaken. And it's like, oh, why you want to team up with me? It's like, well, you're the weakest of the weaker of the Forsaken, which Makiden didn't appreciate. But then it's like, you need a new Forsaken like me to be even weaker than you, so I'm really like the bottom of the barrel, that way it doesn't reflect upon you. It's like, well, I don't work well together with others. And Leandrin's like, me neither, because I'm assuming she left her other sister behind, because she's not dead, it's just Min knocked her out. So the other one that Elaine dealt with is super dead, but like the other one is just knocked out. But Leandrin's probably like, well, I got all that I need. Because it also brought up something I had questioned too, about the whole element of, well, we see that Leandrin has both bracelets on, but I was like, could you make that work? Because the whole point is it needs to be two Aes Sedai doing it. But it's like, well, now you have Makiden having it. So I wonder how long are they going to wait before they make their move, like, because they didn't try to go after Rand immediately. They're biding their time, but I guess it's like dealing with the other Forsaken first, then dealing with Rand. You'd assume they want to go after Rand first to use him as a weapon to take down the others, but we'll have to wait to see. And then, but speaking of the White Tower and everything, we have Siuan trying to decide how she's going to handle the whole situation of what Moraine told her through the dreams of you need to basically at the White Tower to submit and follow Rand, but that's not so easy. Like even Lyanna, it's like, oh, you have to bring it to a vote, and it's like because Suan's like, do you know why I chose you to be my right hand? It's because you're not afraid of me. You have always been quick to tell me when you feel like I'm on the wrong path and I'm wrong. So it's like, right, let's bring this to a vote and try it like that. But Elena did what she did and was pulling strings. She manipulated all the supporters that would back Siuan and tricked them into chasing after the Reds, who went claiming to go after Rand, but no, they were just tricking all her supporters out. And a vote was held by the remaining 11, and that gave Elena the win. They were able to basically impeach Siuan. They stilled her, and then it's like, oh, like Elida was like, oh, I'm going to question her. And next time we see Siuan, she's laying on the ground having been beaten. So I guess like they were trying to torture information out of her. And then finally it's like, all right, what you need to do is give us answers. And you have Elida in her position as the new Amaranth seat, and Siuan beaten and bloody, just being like, oh, truth. You want truth? Okay. Me and Moraine Scott heard someone's vision of like the dragon being reborn, and that we've worked together in all of this. That basically saying like we have acted like we have been the center of this tower for all this time, but things are changing. We can't remain the same way anymore. Things have to be different. It's like if we keep doing things the way we're going to doing, we're basically damning everyone here that this tower will burn. But Siuan's like, I'm not going to burn because I'm going to be like water. Because for her, it's like, I love Moraine and I will always love her. Nothing will ever change that. And she had made that clear to Moraine that maybe things could work out for them in the next spin of the wheel. And it's heartbreaking for the situation to play out like that, and because Siuan is executed, clean, cut her head off. But yeah, it's going to be so interesting when I'm so curious too, like those who are so loyal to Siuan, like a Lyanna, like what happens to her, because she probably has no choice but to submit to the Amelin seat, to Elena. But it's like, what do you do after that? Like, or is she going to be in prison because she chooses not to? Like, the ones who are tricked, like you kind of have no choice but to accept things as they are. It sucks. They can't, there's no one doing it regardless because Siuan's dead now. So, but it's like the tower is not going to be unified. It's going to be unified under being forced rather than, and I'm so curious to see how the white Sedai go forward, because they're the whole ones, once again, based on logic and stuff. But like, because Siuan made it clear, like, I made my oath for like 3,000 years ago, and like, listen to me when I say this, that this is the truth, and just for things to end that way tragically, and it's so sad. Like, there's her and Moraine being so far away from each other, but at least they had that final time together in her dream. That doesn't make it great. It's not a great substitute, but it's a silver lining and just a tragedy that is that situation. But yeah. Other than that, we pick up with the Rand situation as he's paying his toll to the girl who died, and he's like harvesting the plants for her. And so everyone's working together to try and go after Lanfear. And I love, like, Rand picked a place. She's like, oh, what is this place? And it's like, oh, this is the place where basically the fall happened, where you ended up opening the doorway to the Darkwind and made your oath. It's kind of like, yeah, where that spear thing came crashing down. And it's like, I know what you've been doing about Egwene. It's like, well, she told you, right? And she tried to spin it like I was just trying to make her stronger. And it's just like, oh, it's so interesting because she's trying to spin it of like, yeah, but like I did what I did. Like you knew eventually the truth was going to come out, and like, I guess she thought she'd have him so wrapped around her fingers that he'd be so in love with her that what happens to Egwene wouldn't matter, because she was hoping to pull them apart more and more so that once she stuck her like nails into him, it'd be hard for him to break free. But it's like, yeah, regardless of it all, Egwene saying all that, them being where they are right now, kind of, this is the person he deeply has always cared about. You are that new person in his life, but yeah, it's a yeah, and she brings up like the whole lose of it all, where it's just kind of like, you threw me away before, and Rand ended up saying like, "Oh, I'm leaving you behind, just like I did before, because I just like lose. I'm sure he saw you for the monster that you are." You can see a bit of it when she's like channeling her real power. It seems like the how she presents herself, the like beautiful woman that she is. That Natasha, the actress, is kind of fades away, and she kind of reminds me. I forgot what they're called. There's Hexen Beast, is that their name? I can't remember. From Grimm, how like the witches, like how their true form beneath like of the vest, and like they're like the witch's like real form, it kind of looks like a decrepit, scary, like monstrous woman. It kind of looked like that for a second, and I'm almost like, is that what she really looks like? But she presents herself in this beautiful form, because maybe that's, I mean, to be fair, that is what she looked like when she was human, and obviously all these centuries later she's just holding on to that, not showing her real kind of like form. It's like, beauty on the outside, ugly on the inside, and like your ugliness kind of show through in that moment. It feels like it's supposed to be that type of thing. But yeah, she's trying to like deal with Rand now, and it's like, oh, now that she's a jilted lover, it's like, screw it all. Like, I'm gonna get my get back, and she's talking to Raven later, and it's like, oh, I'm going to kill Rand. And obviously, rather than coming after Rand directly because she knew it'd be a trap, she already has contingencies upon contingencies. Like the woman that, the woman who is close to land, and it's like, to bring back Malkier. Like she's like, she made a dark oath of her own. So now it's kind of like, yeah, you gotta pay that forward now, and because Leandrin came knocking, and I was curious to see how that was going to play out. But it's to basically hurt, because she was going to do two foes. She was going to get that woman to kill, was it Madrin? Maldrin? I can't remember the woman's name now. But I guess get her to kill Lan, and she would go after Moraine. Which even Moraine was kind of predicting, like, well, I'm here in the Waste. This is usually, not always, but this is usually where Lanfear kills me. And it's like, it might not be tomorrow or today, or it might be a year from now. But Moraine was like, I get the feeling it's going to be today. But yeah. But yeah, she was like dead set on going after Rand. I mean, she didn't deal with him directly because that was kind of like a fool's errand. Also, I thought was interesting, I didn't realize that's the role Samael was meant. Like, I thought he was supposed to be serve as a purpose of, oh, I'm going to put you in a position, Rand, to kill him and get stronger. But it's like, no, he was meant to be like forced to be his teacher. I didn't realize that's the role he was supposed to play. But it's kind of a moot point, because Mahiden like super murdered him. In fact, she tore him to pieces, and the final product is like, it's one of those like serial killer art displays, like how she has him ripped apart and the strands are like in the air, like holding him up like a net. You're just like, Jesus, And then even Lanfear being like, see, Robin, I told you she'd go after the weakest, and after she's done with this, she's coming after you. Which I was like, oh, the irony would be like if she went after Lanfear next, especially with how the episode plays out. I could definitely see her potentially going after Lanfear after this, but we'll see. But yeah, they've kind of got to be united front against, going after Rand. So like I said, they're biding their time. They're not going after him directly, because the whole point was like, I think Raven was supposed to get the sword that they wanted Rand to get, which obviously pairs with the jewel thing that Moraine has. But that sword can kill a Forsaken. So it's about dealing with Mahiden, but also being able to deal with Rand if need be. So either way, all at the same time, Lanfear's other machinations were put in place when she went to the other dude, who the other IO tribe leader that has issues with like Rand being the Karan and gives him the tattoos to make it seem like he was the Karan because Rand has to announce himself in front of all these different tribes that have kind of come together. And I think it's so interesting too because he was talking to the chief and it was like, well, should I tell them the truth about who they are? But he was like, no, you can't. Basically, that will undo all the Aiel if you tell them that we originally come from the way of the leaf, because it's like, once again, the whole, oh, they are the lost ones or whatever. And it's like, oh, like I don't know why in my head I didn't realize. Once again, a lot of that kind of like lost me a little bit, but I talked about it last episode when those IEO that were with, following L'Oreal that were spitting at the travelers, being like, oh, they're the lost ones because they follow the way of the leaf. But it's like, I was like, oh, the IEO in general don't know what they came from, like that they are in fact oath breakers. So that it is kind of like they're all about keeping their oaths and finding out that the dark history is, well, you broke your oath because you used to be part of, your people used to be about the way of the leaf, but then like you spun off from those who broke away. So it's interesting how you broke your oath and you strayed from what was originally there and in your family's history, well, your people's legacy and lineage. But yeah, also I love that scene between Moraine and Rand, and he kind of pieces it together. He was like, you were working with Lanfear, like the whole trial, the like break us apart in episode 1, and it's like, yes, that was me. And it was like, you were trying to isolate me on my own from Egwene, Lanfear, and she's like, preferably both. It's like, so that I would basically follow what you wanted me to. And it's kind of like Moran doesn't even get mad at her. He brings up the irony of it. He's like, it's been a long time of our journey since the Two Rivers, but he's like, despite everything, you're the only person in my life that stayed by my side throughout it all. And he's like, that is the beautiful irony. And I'm almost feeling like, are they going to set up the whole Moraine and Rand being a thing in this? Is this where this timeline's going or not? Because he even says, like, I want you by my side. Because she's like, well, I won't be around forever. He's like, neither will I. But until then, I want you by my side. I'm like, I don't know. Because despite everything, he's like, all you've ever wanted. I forgot how the conversation broke down. I'm messing up the details. But I thought it was beautiful where it was just kind of like this. She's like, basically like, don't get all sentimental or whatever. I'm just like, I will kill you if you ever go mad or anything like that. And I just want you to like fulfill, like, I want you to be at the last battle unless you were going to go mad, and then I'd kill you myself. And then Rand, it's like, at the end of the day, we both want the same thing. And so he's like, for getting me this far, thank you. And you see her tearing up because I think it means a lot for her, especially because we know Moraine sacrificed a lot. She kind of played the bad guy role because it was kind of, I had to do necessary evils to get you on this journey and down this path that you need to be on in the grand scheme of things, because you are our biggest and last hope when it comes to the last battle. You're too crucial and important. So yes, I've had to do some shitty and not so great stuff to push you down this path, but for you to be like, thank you, and to hear that, because no one ever really thanks her for what she's done, her sacrifices, like, I think it swelled up a lot, especially knowing like this might be her final day too. So it's like, I'm going to protect you and make sure you see this through. So he presents himself in front of the Aiel and in front of this imposter claiming to be the one that's like, oh, but then like Rand brings it up, I am one of the blood, not raised by the blood. This is who my father was, and I am from the wetlands. I'm a wetlander. And he makes his declaration to everyone. And because his hands are being forced, he's like, I am your Karakarn. I know where you come from. You are oath breakers. And he makes that declaration. And he talks about, what he is. Like, the chief is like, if you do this, it will kind of destroy us. And it's like, that's what I was born to do. Once again, to just be that both it's like its savior and its destroyer. And so he kind of makes a point about like, if you turn your back on me, you will die. And he channels all his powers and starts making it rain. At the same time, prior to this, Lan gets confronted by the woman, and she purposely doesn't kill him because she's like, her dark oath was, her promise was like, I'll serve the Dark One, but it would be for the purposes of bringing back her kingdom. Killing Lan would be like the end of that. So for her, she breaks her dark oath. But Lan's like, no. If you do that, there's no like reincarnation for you with the will. Your soul will be destroyed. I'm like, I didn't know we knew. I guess that came up once again. I don't remember that ever really being talked about, but like breaking your dark oaths does that. And yet like she, not only does she die, but her like soul gets destroyed. So that motivates Lan to help Moraine when it comes to the whole land fear of it all. And like obviously Lanfear got pretty close, went straight for the whole choking her out situation, but then Lan showed up and started slashing her up. But then she tried to like close the wound and saw that it didn't, because that blade is obviously like it's his father's blade, but it's like a family sword and it's very special. Because I think the whole point was that it was supposed to be able to work against the Forsaken, but either way, like both of them were duking it out with her, but she gains the upper hand and stabs Moraine. But before she could kill Moraine, in that moment, Moraine feels Suwan's death, grabs the blade, pulls it out, doesn't even grab the hilt of the sword anymore. She's still holding onto the blade, and she slashes into the barrier of Lanfear's, breaks through it, and slices her throat. Because that's, funny enough, that's how Moraine kind of gets killed by her sometimes, especially here in the West. So that's kind of interesting. And she tried to go in for the death stab, but Lanfear ran away. That's why I would brought it up earlier, where I'm like, I could definitely see Mahiden going after Lanfear now after getting wounded like that. But yeah, like I was like, is this it? It's like, no, because I thought I was like, if Moraine, like, I thought it'd be too sad if we made it so that both Moraine and Suwan died. But like I was like, well, if Suwan's dead, maybe Moraine won't die, and she didn't. But then I was like, but because earlier I was like, maybe Moraine's gonna die. I don't know. I'd assume not. I mean, just because, once again, like that doesn't, just because like Rosamund Pike is like an executive producer on this doesn't necessarily mean Moraine is set to survive, because as we saw, she can die in multiple different ways depending on how the timeline falls out and plays out. But yeah, it's like, yeah, Lanfear managed to get away, so she's on the back foot to some extent. Once again, you still have Raven going out there to get the sword, so not completely out of this yet. But all you have is that ending where Lan is holding on to Moraine as she's breaking down about Suwan's death. But then we have Rand continuing to gather that storm, and everyone bowing down to him as a Kara Karn. And we see kind of everyone, like Mahiden's reaction to the storm above, Nynaeve and them on the boat with the storm. We see like Fael and the other Aiel that were back in the Two Rivers as they're keeping an eye on the White Cloak camp. We don't see Perrin, but obviously it's meant to be like, oh, because they've got Perrin and what they're going to do with him, what Dane is going to do with him after all of this. But yeah, it's just about kind of those reactions all around. And then Egwene's talking to Rand, like, let it go. And he just looks at her and is like kind of getting swept up maybe by the madness. If anyone's going to be able to bring him back, I think it's going to be Moraine. Maybe we'll see if that's going to be the direction they end up going with that. But obviously a nice little way to kind of cliffhanger it in the best way. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the future holds. I'm recording this on April 17th when this episode came out. There has not been any news. I want to say last season the news came out the day the season finale dropped, but I could be misremembering. So it's still unclear whether or not there'll be a fourth season. I really hope so. Once again, I remember looking it up. I think we're roughly in the third to fourth book territory. I think this storyline in particular is this season is adapting the third and fourth book. Like I said, there's like 14. I don't know how they're gonna, like, whether or not they're gonna really adapt everything, or is it just gonna be like, we're gonna wrap things up. We're probably gonna speed run a lot of this story, or I don't know. It just depends. Like, if the show is able to keep going on, who knows how long it will. But yeah, I mean, I'd hope to continue to show and see where this story goes. I keep reiterating it all the time. I've never read the book, so this is my only introduction to the story. So this is the only story I know. So I'm interested to see its conclusion, whatever it may be. And not necessarily saying that the next season will be the final season. I'm just saying, like, I hope, like I said, I just don't doubt. I doubt it's going to get to like adapt all 14 books. So I could definitely see them probably like, no, we're going to skip that. We're not going to adapt this. We're going to probably like I said, speed run things along in certain capacities. But who knows how it all lay out and how it all play out, with the future storylines of the story. But yeah, like I said, at the very least, I hope we get a fourth season, because I'd love to see where things go from here. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and Goodbye.